once considered the maritime powerhouse of Africa. Now, the South African Navy is down to just 5 operational vessels. And despite claims from Minister Angie Motshekga that we're not defenseless,
we could do with more money, but it doesn't mean that nothing is happening and therefore we are sitting ducks as a country, anybody can walk all over us. No, we're confident that as a defense force we will be able to protect our people and also protect our country.
Our senior investigative journalist Sikonathi Mantshantsha insists the minister's misguided.
The minister is talking total hogwash. There's absolutely no way South Africa can take on Namibia, as an example. We have no navy.
We examine the state of the Navy next. Later in the show, the DA's John Steenhuisen eyes a possible third term at the party's helm. And finally, a cold front snares us in its wintry grip, barreling towards flood-stricken Eastern Cape.
To stay tuned to The Lead for every edition, hit the follow and subscribe buttons on our Spotify, Apple, and YouTube podcast channels.
Wait until the show's end to hear your voice notes. Here's a quick snippet.
So glad Frans Matipa is finally getting justice. I've been following this case since 2023, 2022.
And if you'd like to engage us on this episode's topics, you can send your thoughts and opinions to our official The Lead WhatsApp line. That number, 072 562 3179. My name's Graham Robenheimer. Let's chat all this and more right here on The Lead on News 24. The South African Navy's limited operational capability has been sinking further in recent years. Today, only 5 vessels can take to the seas along our expansive coastline, and they're fairly restricted to patrolling our harbours only. And if you're wondering, well, South Africa's not at war, so who needs a navy anyway? Then you're sorely mistaken about the force's critical importance in other areas. The man deployed to assess the state of our maritime force is senior investigative journalist Sikonathi Mantshantsha, and he joins us now live from our Johannesburg studios. Sikonathi, thanks so much for your time. I've been waiting very patiently for your next installment in the Defenseless series.
Thank you so much, Graham. Thanks for having me over here.
Let's go straight to the crux of the matter and let's go through the current fleet, the Navy fleet as we know it. You've got this fantastic graph giving the different classes of vessels here and whether or not they're in operation, whether or not they're not in operation, and perhaps the unknown status of which you perhaps could not verify the status of the operational capability of said vessel. So I thought let's go through all of them as we know it, and let's start with the submarines. I was lucky once upon a time to be in the Queen Majaji. Is she able to take to the seas these days?
For all intents and purposes, the Queen Majaji is not operable, and the Navy declined to answer our questions about her whereabouts. We have not seen her in action for more than about 5 years now.
And of the total 3 submarines at this time, Sikonathi, which ones are operable? And as you said, the Queen Majaji at this stage isn't.
The SAS Mantatisi is the one that is operable and can do some exercises. If you remember that tragic incident in July last year where 2 Navy officers died at sea in really rough weather, they were exercising on the Mantatisi, and it is still the only one that is active. Then you have the third one, the Charlotte Maxeke, that has been lying in pieces waiting to be put together after a refit for the past 9 years, Graham. It's lying in the dockyard and waiting for funds and spares to make it work again. The 3 submarines are all that South Africa does have in the way of submarines, and they were acquired in the arms deal in 1999. Mm-hmm. And we, of course, back then the requirement was for 6 submarines, but we only acquired 3 to patrol our vast shoreline and maritime zone. So that's where we are. Okay, next class of vessels,
Sikonathi, the frigates. Which ones are able to take to the sea and which ones are not?
Those are, we've got an A200 Valo class frigate. That's 4 of them. Again, only one is operational and currently doing exercises off the east coast near Durban and south of the Mozambique Channel. That's the Isandlwana that is currently active. The Amatola is again waiting in the dock, and it is being refitted. And the Navy said, or rather AMSCO said, that would be done by June 2026 after numerous delays. So it's being fitted with new guns and repairing, but not upgrading its radar systems.
To a much lesser capacity in terms of going further out into sea and what it's capable of, the multi-mission inshore patrol vessels, those are relatively newer vessels, right? They've been procured more recently, as I understand it, and they're all in operation. Is that right, Sikonathi?
That's absolutely correct. They were ordered and delivered to the Navy. The last one in April this year. There's 3 in total that started deliveries starting 3 years ago at a cost of 3.9 billion rands. So those really form the backbone of our Navy currently. As we say, these are short-term or medium-term vessels that cannot at all be considered as strike vessels, in the sense that you cannot engage another naval force with them. Should combat time come up, unfortunately, you cannot send them way out to sea for weeks or months at a time as the frigates can.
And how many other vessels does the Navy have? And I'd imagine none of those others are capable of doing anything at the moment.
Graham, that's the 5 that we do have, which gives us limited naval force capability. And as the people that I spoke to were quite forthright, those can only take on small-time pirates. People that are taking chances with their commercial ships and trying to raid them, as we have seen the pirate program in West and East Africa over the past 7 years. So that's all that you do have. You cannot at all go to war with what we have in South Africa currently. Neither can you defend our vast maritime zone. Let's repeat that. The square kilometer size surface of the ocean that South Africa is assigned to, one, both in terms of its own boundaries, the exclusive economic zone, it's 4.35 million square kilometers. The land mass of the country is 1.2 million square kilometers. So we are talking about almost 4 times the size of the country that the Navy must patrol and protect. And remember, 90% of our economic shipments in and out of the country come via the ocean, connecting mostly Asia and Africa. And of course, a lot of international traffic flows through our waters to mainly South America.
Of these vessels that are currently in operation, is it correct that only that submarine that we've spoken of is from the main sort of arms deal that is still in use today? Or are there other vessels that we're not aware of that is currently in operation of that specific deal?
No, only that submarine, the Mantshantsha, is currently in use, and it was acquired in the arms deal, and the frigate, the Isandlwana, is also in use. It was acquired in the arms deal. So you only have 2, and South Africa spent, just for the submarines, the 3 submarines, spent about 10 billion rands to acquire those. It spent a good 6 billion rand for the frigates, the 4 frigates, and as we have just said, only one of those works, and one of the submarine works. So we spent, let's say, over 15 billion rand on the submarines and on the frigates 25 years ago. Today, only 2 works. And I don't know what the cost would be, or rather the value of those assets today.
How difficult was it to verify all of this, Sikonathi? Last time round with the South African Air Force, of course, some of the experts, within the defence field in South Africa were quite hard on you, saying, where did you get all this information from? I was quite confident that obviously you had done quite a lot of preparation for your findings. The latest time round, of course, the SANDF has yet again been sort of very cagey about what they've been sharing with you, claiming that, of course, it's sensitive information. But then we had Defence Minister Angie Motshekga before parliamentarians this week as well. So how difficult was it to get the information, to verify it, or have the defence experts that we're all aware of, Helmut Heitman et al., been sort of quite available to help you go through or to discern what's fact from fiction here?
The experts, including the gentleman you have just mentioned, Helmut Heitman, have really been helpful and accessible and willing to share information, and of course have been generous with the information from their own sources. Patriotic people they are. They have really made themselves available and provided valuable information. Having said that, directly to answer your question, has it been difficult? No, it's not been difficult to put together and verify this information, precisely because so much of our defense force material is in the public domain, precisely because we are a democracy. And two, I guess South Africa knows there are no imminent threats, as in the way of any imminent invasion. So they are rather careless, I must repeat. They are careless. The defense force itself, Armsco, and Parliament, they are all careless about the kind of information they put out in the public domain. Let's take an example. On June 13, which is 2 weeks ago, Armsco presented in Parliament about contracts, both for the Navy and the Air Force, which, as you know, we have already written about the Air Force, and they verified and repeated everything we had said in our first installment about the loss of capability in the South African Air Force. They went into detail and confirmed exactly how many aircraft are available, which had been denied by some of the experts you spoke about earlier, not the gentleman you named, but there were some people that felt rather touched in their studios when we wrote about the Air Force earlier. So I'll get back to who those are. But the Navy, again, Armsco on the 13th of June went into specific detail about our vessels that are active and contracts and vessels that are not active and how long it would take and how much it would cost to fix them. They did exactly the same, even spoke about the president's jet at length, including who is the service provider, what piece of equipment they are waiting for and how long they've been waiting for. And they actually spoke about how unsecured that particular aeroplane is, in the sense that they spoke about upgrades that are required to make it more secure and less prone to intelligence attacks from other less friendly countries. Now, what is the military's role, the South African National Defence's role in this? The Defence Force has at all material times refused to answer our questions, citing security concerns, which is laughable. Graham, if you wanted to communicate with the South African National Defence Force today, you would write to them on a Gmail account or a Hotmail account.
We spoke about this last time. It's laughable.
It's still not changed, and it would be laughable if it wasn't so serious a matter. They say to me they cannot answer my questions on the capabilities and the current fleet of both the Air Force and the Navy, because this is security sensitive information. And they say this to me over a Gmail account. And they share correspondence with Parliament and presumably with all their stakeholders on Gmail and Hotmail accounts. Guess what? Because they cannot even secure their own communication system, their own websites. How then can they secure the borders of the country? How can they secure our international trade routes in the Indian and Atlantic Ocean?
Sure. Okay, so moving to Parliament and bringing us a little bit more up to speed, of course, the Defence Minister, Angie Motshekga, she was on behalf as her turn within the Peace and Security Cluster answering questions from MPs in the National Council of Provinces. Here's what she had to say, Sikonathi, about rehabilitating the Air Force specifically, as we've just touched on the topic, after we had revealed in our previous reporting that only 6 planes were operational at the time to protect our skies. Let's have a listen to that first clip first, and then I'll have you sort of react to it. Let's have a listen.
What we have prioritized is to fix what we have so that as we procure new aircraft, which are going to be extremely expensive, those that we have that are serviceable are under service. So we're ramping our performance both from AMSCO, because one of the biggest problem of AMSCO is funding. But besides funding, the other big problem that AMSCO has is security to secure spare parts from our traditional partners like France, Germany, and America. So again, that we're trying to really help AMSCO and make sure that our partners deliver. So our priority is to repair and fix those that are repairable whilst we're looking at procuring more planes. But the biggest thing, remember, as I said, it's getting some bit of funding.
I thought we'd leave it there. That's basically, she repeats herself quite a lot throughout that specific briefing. And, we've heard it all before, funding being the main issue here, the defunding of the Defence Force. What do you think about her update?
She is totally correct about the lack of funding. The South African government has systematically over the past 30 years has been reducing funding of the Defence Force, and that is on capital equipment. They are not funding maintenance. They are not funding any acquisition of new technology, radar and stuff like that. They are so bad, so much so that 95% of the hardware, the aircraft that should be available are not, purely because there has been no maintenance, and the minister really has not done. Of course, she's a new minister. All the ministers, defense ministers in democratic government and presidents have been presiding over the defunding of the South African National Defence Force, and that has had a rather very serious and tragic consequences, in the sense that it's now the worst possible military force on the African continent from the number one force not so long ago, before 1994.
Yeah, well, according to the minister, Sikonathi, South Africa is capable of defending itself. Let's have a listen to the clip at the end of that specific briefing in Parliament from Tuesday. Let's have a listen.
I want to repeat what I've said before, that in terms of our current needs as a country, our sea, our skies, and our land, we are confident as the department that we will be able to defend our country. And there's evidence to that, for the mere fact that as a country, we are even able to send in peacekeeping forces, quite a number of them were there to assist in Mozambique, were there to assist in the DRC. We participate in a number of peacekeeping forces. We will not even be able to go there if we had zero capacity. So we're saying, yes, there are challenges, and that I want to repeat up front. We should be somewhere. For instance, the member mentions a question about a refreshed young force. We had hoped to recruit 10,000 a year, but because our funding does not allow us, we have reduced to 5,000. And that's what I'm talking about. So it doesn't mean that we're not doing anything. We have a crisis and therefore we're not moving. We are supposed to improve our capabilities. I can assure members that we continue to procure. You would have had reports from AMSCO, we continue to procure and repair. But we're saying we could do with more money. But it doesn't mean that nothing is happening and therefore we're sitting ducks as a country. Anybody can walk all over us. No. We're confident that as a defense force, we will be able to protect our people and also protect our country.
5 vessels at sea, 6 aircraft, as per our last reporting, in the skies. Do you buy what the minister has told MPs?
Graham, absolutely not. The minister is talking total hogwash. the 6 aircraft you're referring to, it's only 2 military aircraft.
Sure.
The other 2 are VIP jets, private aeroplanes to fly the VIPs, the state president and deputy around. They are not military combat aircraft. So we only have 2 jets, and by the SANDF's own admission, in a report that we have published, those 2 jets are only available 50% of the time. So forget a serious country. If Zimbabwe wanted to invade us from the air, we would have no response, at least in the form of the Air Force. We would have to rely on our ground-based air defense systems. There's absolutely no way South Africa can take on Namibia, as an example. We have no navy. So, and of course, let's be frank here. The South African National Defence Force, the biggest army school, Luhatla military base, last year, suffered a tragedy caused by a felt fire that started 20 kilometers away from the base, but the base could not put out the fire, did not have working fire equipment. Now, can the minister honestly say a military that has been defeated by a felt fire that started 20 kilometers away and finally got to the base and destroyed half the military base and killed 6 officers? Can the minister say we can that military can defend the country against an aggressor, a foreign aggressor? Can the minister say a defense force that sent its peacekeeping troops to their deaths in the DRC, to Central African Republic, with absolutely no air support whatsoever, and they were sitting ducks and were totally defeated and humiliated only 4 months ago? Can that minister repeat that we are capable of defending ourselves? We were humiliated in Central Africa by a ragtag army of rebels, and that was repeated again this January in the DRC, so much so that it took a whole full month to recover our wounded soldiers from the battlefield, having to rely on other countries and private suppliers of aeroplanes to fly our people back. And when you finally have flown the last one back, you can't even tell to which airport they will be landing, as happened last week, when the same minister flew all the way to Bloemfontein to receive our returning soldiers from the DRC, being flown in a Tanzanian aircraft, went to Bloemfontein, only to find out the people were actually landing up the road at Waterkloof military base. Now, an army that, a military that cannot run a website, that does not even know where an aircraft is landing, a private aircraft is landing, is capable of defending a country.
It's excellently put. Just to wrap up, finally, just to bring it all home to our central topic about the state of the South African Navy, Sikonathi. Back in the day, of course, it was a critical sea route. Before the Suez Canal had opened up, etc. Many of the Western forces looked to South Africa to assist there. I mean, we had submarine battles off our coast during World War II. Now, some people might argue, these things aren't that critical anymore. But when it comes to talk of piracy, etc., having a capable navy these days to also assist stricken vessels is of paramount importance, correct?
And it is South Africa's obligation under international law to actually be able to patrol that maritime zone that I spoke about of 4.3 million square kilometers, but also our own boundaries within that need 100% South African Navy patrols and a rescue capability, which we do not have. 90% of the trade of this country comes through the Mozambican Channel between Madagascar and the east coast of Africa, which has been piracy heaven. South Africa did, about 6 years ago, when it still did have some capability in the Navy, did patrol and help put out the piracy activity there that really disrupted most of the trade, oil trade coming from the Middle East and all that, particularly given the problem in Somalia and the Horn of Africa. We had to have the Navy there, but on its own, it couldn't do anything. It needed the Americans, it needed the French, and they put out that problem and really secured now that Suez Canal route to divert and to run away from the piracy problem. Most commercial shipping lines now go through the Suez Canal in order to go through the Mediterranean to reach North America. Usually the cheapest and good route would have been the route past our own waters, but we are unable to protect those waters. 90% of Southern Africa's trade relies on the Indian Ocean, connecting Africa and Asia, but also connecting Asia and South America. It has to go through our seas, but we do not have the ability to patrol and protect those. So we are really a sitting duck, both in the air and at sea. It has now shown in those tragic incidences that I've just told you about that on land as well, we do not have a functioning military.
And that's senior investigative journalist Sikonathi Mantshantsha with his latest piece in the Defenseless series entitled Security Sinks, Trade Routes Exposed as Frigates, Submarines Out of Action. If you'd like to be part of this conversation, do you buy what the minister is selling? You can drop us all your comments and opinions on our official The Lead WhatsApp line 072 562 3179. Sikonathi, I really appreciate it. Nkosi kakhulu. Have a fantastic rest of your week.
Thank you, sir. Same to you.
To our trending topic now, and could John Steenhuisen be the leader of the Democratic Alliance for a third term? Well, if he had his way, then perhaps yes. Speaking to News 24's Jason Felix on the sidelines of the DA's 25th birthday celebrations in Cape Town this week, Steenhuisen stated that he hopes his party re-elects him at next year's elective Congress, scheduled for April, which is also the same year of the municipal elections. Steenhuisen rose to prominence in the DA in 2019 after previous leaders Musi Maimane, Athol Trollip and James Self resigned in the wake of poor local government election results in which the party had hemorrhaged nearly 500,000 votes. Tongues have now been wagging for a while that Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis could throw his hat in for DA leader, but he has since publicly indicated he wouldn't run against Steenhuisen. Nonetheless, his name continues to enjoy strong party support, and who knows, a year is an eternity in politics. Anything can happen. Whilst many of you in the News 24 comment section reckon that perhaps it's high time John hands over the baton to someone else. Let's see. Ever wondered what goes on in the minds of some of South Africa's most terrifying serial killers? Well, this month's free audiobook, only for News 24 subscribers, is Killer Stories, Conversations with South African Serial Murderers by Brian Hodgkiss and Nicole Engelbrecht. Here's a snippet narrated by Gavin Gomez.
It is sometimes the case with serial murderers that those hunting them are not aware of their serial nature until arrests are made. In several cases, it has been one offense that has led to the arrest, and then the offender himself will admit to many more murders. This is one such instance. On the eve of the dawning of the new South Africa in 1990s, the body of a homeless child called Sam was found at a primary school.
And lastly, after a few misleadingly clear-skied days, the Western Cape's in full wintry lockdown. It's been a mostly wet day with icy conditions setting in. The South African Weather Office is now warning that the cold front with gale force winds will turn to the Eastern Cape next from Thursday. Snow of up to 5 centimeters thick is expected in parts of the flood-stricken province into the weekend. Umtata and its surroundings are still recovering, though, from the recent floods that claimed the lives of at least 100 residents. Some 7,000 homes have been affected, leaving more than 4,000 people stranded. Hundreds of schools and healthcare facilities have been damaged. Government has now set aside at least 5 billion rand to assist all. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has warned provincial politicians from misusing these funds, whilst Cooperative Governance Minister Velenkosini Schlabisa reckons the reality is a result of climate change affecting the region. Plans are now afoot to rehome those left destitute by the floods by April 2026. In the meantime, in Cape Town, traffic authorities are urging all motorists to put their headlights on and drive slowly through the metro's flooded roads. From the state of our SA Navy to a cold front heralding Eastern Cape snow. The show's heating up this week with your voice notes. Let's start with this one in response to our previous edition entitled Meet the Rogue Soldiers Who Allegedly Killed Top Cop Kidnapped ISIS Bosses. Here we spoke to journalists Tankiso Maketa and Bernadette Wicks about how a dozen former and current SANDF members are now in police custody in connection with the murder of a senior Hawks detective. It's a rather intriguing story, as it's now alleged that those SANDF members, a rogue unit if you will, had kidnapped a pair of ISIS leaders, with Lieutenant Colonel Nwako Franz Matipa from the Hawks then investigating, only for him to later show up dead. Here's some of your voice notes. We'll start with this.
Hello, Graham. I hope you're well. It's Kayan Gatlong. Listen, man. I'm so glad Franz Matipa is finally getting justice. I've been following this case since 2023, 2022, when it was broken by Open Secrets. So, yeah, I'm glad that justice is finally prevailing. Another thing, Graham, is, time, man. You guys should increase this time thing to at least 40 seconds for our comments, Yeah, you should speak to Adrian Basson and the whole team at the lead.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, Kayan Katlong, thanks, bye.
I mean, we'll get the boss to clear that for us. I mean, the 40 seconds is just a guideline. I really appreciate the voice note. You're welcome to share your thoughts a little bit longer if you feel it requires it. We'll get clearance from the boss. Let's hear some of your other voice notes here.
I think they should be locked up. They deserve to be locked up, those guys. It doesn't matter you're working for government official or what. Either you are a soldier or whatever that you are. You need to be locked up. You commit a crime, you're getting locked up.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
So, well, everybody's a criminal in South Africa. We are not safe.
Yeah, that is very bad about these soldiers that are committing murder. I thought okay, the police were the ones that are corrupt. But when it's coming to the South African Defence Forces as well, that is bad.
Lots to follow up.
Hello, good evening. How are you? This is Mpho Makwafani. Really, this story is so very shocking and much more disappointing to the people of South Africa. It putting a question mark on credibility and integrity of our law enforcement agencies in the country. Really, it is eroding the confidence and trust of the people of law enforcement agencies. We are really disappointed. Imagine members of the South African National Defence Force who are supposed to protect the people, the civilians, the people of South Africa from the criminals. Out of that, they become criminals on themselves. Really is disappointing. It's really disappointing. We as people of South Africa, really, the moral is eroded away from our law enforcement agencies. Really, we lost our culture, we lost our values from our society. We are too corrupt to the core. Actually, the word corrupt is not enough. We are rotten. We lost our values, we lost our cultural values. We no longer have integrity, we no longer have ubuntu. Really, it's very, very bad, man. But I think they'll be prosecuted and see full might of the law. They will pay the price for it. Thanks. I'm Paul from Rustenburg.
My opinion is that I can see that South Africa is having too much problems. Every department, everything is abnormal.
Good day. If it's 12 SNDF
members who are in custody, where do they get arrested at? Who becomes in charge of arresting soldiers?
Excellent question.
Good evening. In connection with the ZANU-DF members who killed the Hawks colonel is also corrupt, just like the police is corrupt. Why don't they clear out some of the military members, which is corrupt, like the police department? That way South Africa will be much better, and we will all be in safety. But with the authority being so corrupt, no one is safe.
Thanks so much for all of your voice notes. If you'd like to be part of today's conversation, you can hop onto our The Lead official WhatsApp line. That's 072-562-3179. And no, it doesn't have to be 30 or 40 seconds. If you feel like it's a minute, as you just heard, some of our listeners like to share a little bit longer voice notes. Of course, you're welcome to do so right here on The Lead. Hit the follow and subscribe buttons on our Spotify, Apple, and YouTube podcast channels, and that way you'll be notified of all future editions. Of course, we're dropping shows Monday to Thursday, like clockwork, at 7 p.m. on all of your favorite streaming platforms. The show is only going from strength to strength. Stay warm, look after yourself. Looking forward to our next edition this week. My name's Graham Robe, and so long as there's news, we'll have The Lead.